Okay, so I'm going to move to listening. Just
Perfect.
this little statistic here is that a study showed that 60% of our time is spent listening, but the retention of that only 25%. Of the actual information that we truly retain. I mean, we sit there, we listen to each other, but only some of it goes in. And in the case of Cambridge exams, quite often we're not listening to our partner. We're sat there petrified, waiting for our turn to speak. It goes back to what we were saying before about turn taking and people sitting there just literally taking turns because they're so petrified, waiting to take their turn.
Yeah, thinking the whole time while your mouth is moving what I'm going to say.
Exactly.
Something
Exactly.
like
Yeah. And then that's when we fall into the trap of not being able to respond to our partner and build on what they've said. And then we're not going to achieve the high mark that we really want because we haven't completed the task. We haven't used our cognitive ability to complete the task and to show that we're able to communicate and actually come to some sort of conclusion, which is what those collaborative tasks are about. But listening as a whole is something that students, as you well know, it makes them groan. You say, okay, listening, and they, it's not a nice thing. It's something that, as a teacher, I haven't enjoyed spending lots of time preparing it. To be honest, it's been frustrating at times, really frustrating, trying to prepare listenings and get things kind of. Yeah, just to get things done.
They're so unauthentic.
And make it fun.
Inauthentic.
Yes. Yeah, I think so. I do feel so. And I still feel we've got a long way to go when it comes to representation of dialect and accent with listenings.
I was just going to mention that you have these listening tests with these fake, dialects.
I thought, yes.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry because the American ones from Cambridge, and I apologize on behalf of my country because some of them are truly awful. There's legendary.
Like exaggerated, like I remember one this exaggerated
absolutely.
New York kind of accent. And then I looked out the window.
Yeah. And said, hey, I'm walking here. But it kind of puzzles me actually why we don't have, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying before about when students go to visit London, for example, and then they then feel very deflated by the experience because they feel, oh, hang on, my English isn't so good. So
which it is probably, it's just kind of like they've been like repetition, but they've been practicing the wrong way. I've talked about before, practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. You could practice practice the wrong thing, then you'll just get really good at the wrong thing.
Exactly, precisely, yes. That's why it comes down to exposure, really, doesn't it? I mean, you need to, and as I've said to my students this week, really, if you want to make listening easier, you have to expose yourself to it. With the same vein that we talked about Hola magazine, read hello, it's the same idea. We all teachers, we know this. Watch things that you like in English, but again, something that you actually enjoy. A lot of people, I'm quite surprised that a lot of my Spanish students particularly have films that they love and they've watched again and again and again, but they've never actually watched the original version of them, which I find quite strange actually, because when I really like sort of films, or in general, I try to watch the original version of films, especially if I particularly like an actor. I'll want to, I want to see their true performance.
Hear their voice.
So I often tell my students, would you like to see that performer, watch a film that you've seen 100 times because you already know the story.
Or a series. Like I say that about The Simpsons. I do that for myself with The Simpsons because I know The Simpsons so well. I was
just about to say, last night we came home, we actually watched an episode of The Simpsons and I said to my partner, well, we can watch it in Spanish. I love this episode. We can watch it in Spanish. I've seen it 100 times. And it was interesting for me. And I'm learning, I'm just noticing things just generally because I know that word for word. And it's interesting to hear the Spanish version of it,
Yeah.
So that's obviously the first thing. We all know that. There's also this, which I'm pretty sure you know what this is in the background, what this refers to with listening exercises. So life would be perfect if we had these. Can you tell me, Jesse, I'm going to do a little bit of elicitation there. Why have I got this up here with regards to TEFL teaching in the classroom, listening?
Well, I would think that it's because, kind of like I have in real life, I'm so accustomed to having that rewind button, or also to go with it, like a zoom button when I'm looking at like a photograph. Sometimes I
Mm,
just instinctually want to zoom in, and the same thing, like if I didn't catch something, I want to go back and listen.
sure.
And I'm wondering if this is about to encourage students to listen to the big picture and not get discouraged if they miss a word.
Yes, but over a long period of time, basically. This I liken to you've got some kids, are they? I don't know how old they are. Do they ride a bike yet? Any of them?
Yeah, we just went out yesterday. One with
Oh,
training wheels, but yeah, we just
there
went
you
out
go.
yesterday on the bike.
Bingo. This is the analogy I'd like to use. Yeah, it's the whole training wheels thing. So the idea behind this, and I learned this actually in the CELTA. This was Claire Potter gave me this great idea. Thanks, Claire. You see this. And this is the tape player. So I let them have control of the listening. I let them have control of the listening. So they're basically, if anyone wants to pause, rewind, go back, play that section again. They basically have control, so they can listen
Interesting.
5 times. They can listen 5 times at the moment.
Yeah.
At the moment, what basically happens is the functionality of my tape player.
So wait,
Oh,
time out real quick before.
yeah,
So you choose one student to have control at a time,
no,
or do you give them
anyone, anybody, because it's always going to be the less confident student who's going to say pause or rewind.
Oh, so you play it. They can just like verbally give you the instructions. So
they just put their hand up. Yeah, it's
okay.
just a hand up. Pause. Okay, no problem. Pause.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I find something interesting I've noticed is I find that students tend to put their hand up at similar times, which is quite an interesting observation. If you try it, you'll notice that students, there will be certain sentences or something that's said, and then I notice collectively, oh, that was difficult. Very interesting for me as a teacher, because I can see, okay, why? I start going into the why was that difficult. 9 times out of 10, it's related to connected speech, which is something else that I really highly recommend I haven't put that on this slide, but connected speech, the Delta deals with that a lot. And I think that is really, really interesting, really helps students understand these intrusive letters, sounds that appear between words that don't really, that aren't really there. Tokyo and Japan. It's my classic sentence. Tokyo and what. There's a Tokyo, where's that come from? This W, there's no W there, but there is the sound of it. Yeah, so that's a separate thing that I really encourage people to invest the time in looking into. Intrusives.
That's very good. I do that with my students too. I don't use the phonemic script because I kind of think that's like an extra kind of language that some students to put on their plate. But I do my best to blend sounds together and write words how they actually sound. And especially with like words that end in ED and the next word starts with a vowel sound. So like summed up. It's like the word dup. What is dup?
Yeah.
Well, nothing.
Exactly.
But the sound, summed up, that's how I would write it.
Yeah, because that's where the difficulty comes in, because their brains are kind of, because they have a language that actually makes sense, unlike English. I often tell my students, crazy English, and embrace it. Tell them, it's not you. It's not all you. You are right. Our language is nuts, and it's because they're expecting that hard consonant sound before that's their marker that it's a new word.
Yeah.
In many cases, if it doesn't have an E in front of it, for example.
Yeah.
The same way as when a Spanish speaker, for example, tries to say many words, especially lower level, tries to say something in English that begins with S, they automatically put an E on the beginning of it. I'm a student in the school. And it's going to be very difficult, is because it's literally ingrained. The neurons are firing off, and that's, again, it comes back to that same thing. We're trying to train them to think English, basically, and not to think so much in Spanish when it comes to construction. So getting back to this, the idea behind this is that basically I slowly remove functionality. So the next time we do it, I'll say, okay, there is no pause this time. You can rewind and listen to the whole thing again, but there is no pause. Okay? And then we'll go on like that for a few sessions. And then when I do it again, maybe 6 months down the line, okay, there's a pause, but there's no going back. There's no listen again. Okay.
Give different restrictions over time.
Yes. And then slowly but surely you're removing everything to eventually you take off those training wheels and let them go. You know, and it's just something you can use with any listening. And if they're having trouble, bring back the controls again. But there has to come a point where they don't have them. And I would say when it gets to halfway through the academic year, I would really stop using that. Because I don't want them. It will become a crutch otherwise. And then
I was just going to use that word.
Yeah. So it's something that I will do for the first 4 months of the year. But then after that, no, I wouldn't do it. But it helps them feel like they've got control, because this really is, unlike speaking and writing, they have no control. They have zero control. And I think that's the most terrifying part for them, is that they have absolutely no control over the listening. So give them some control and then slowly take it away.
Nice. And I love what you said. You said it a few times in this, and I'd like to just highlight it. Again, giving time to breathe. And this is in like over a few months, 3 or 4 months. Yes. You've talked about do this over 3 or 4 months. Let them have it. It's not just like 1 or 2 lessons, and now you should have it. No. Now you've got it, so now I expect you to produce it. No, like give them time.
Absolutely. Right. Yeah, sure.
My kids are going crazy out there. You hear me?
Oh, that's okay. Again, this is listening here. As we've said before about personalizing it, I love friends. So I found this website, eslvideo.com, is amazing. It's really, really good. And it's I did this one in class, this video, but apart from, it's the only time I use it, and I often set it for homework for students to go home and do it. Because like Friends, for example, is something that's really popular around the world. You know, my multilingual students I teach in the summer, I've used it with them because they all know Friends as well. And it's a fairly harmless, universal show that pretty much everyone can watch and enjoy. Yeah. But there are lots of other programs. It's a very pop culture, this website, and it's great because it's got tasks that are very similar to Cambridge tasks, but it's not a Cambridge task. It's like, watch this, and I will set it up by just playing the video first. I won't even show them that it's the website. This would be full screen. I play the video, say, let's watch an episode. Have you seen this program? I love Friends. Put the episode on, the clip, and then we'll start talking about Friends, the lead-in. And then I'll ask them a question, a multiple choice question. Okay, we're going to play a game. Okay. And then I might play the video again, depending on the level. And then I'll ask them the first question. And then I'll expand it out and say, okay, this is what this really is. I want you to do this for homework. And they'll be like, because they enjoyed it, and they didn't see it as an exam task, when essentially it's the same thing. They're listening and they're answering questions.
It is the same thing. That's a great resource.
Yeah, but because it's not a boring piece of paper sat down, and they have to sit down, eyes down, and just writing and just listening, and it's something that they're not particularly interested in or whatever, and they're just thinking, am I going to pass or not? But we're going to touch on that a little bit, because like I say, it's a lot of this exam stuff is the psychology of it. It really is. It's the state of mind that you go into this course with as a teacher and as a student.
Absolutely. So, and that's why I named the show More Than English, because that's what we're doing. It's more than English, like that. I love that. It's the psychology of it. It's the giving them confidence that they can do this. And it's not really as hard as they think it is in their minds. No. And especially again, when they, if I refer back to students, seeing their own mistakes and stuff, and it's like, you're better than you realize if you give yourself a chance. Absolutely. Absolutely. Hey guys, I'm sitting here with my daughter, Sophia. She's recording this, and I just want to thank you for watching this video. If you like it and you want to see another video like it, then right next to me, you can click another video for a fun lesson idea or a teaching tip. And don't forget to subscribe and click the bell so you get new videos every week. Keep teaching and keep learning. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.